Welcome back to the Sam Navejas podcast, and we have a lot to talk about today. We got UFC news, NBA play-in, NBA playoff predictions. Let's get started with the first segment. First, we got UFC news, UFC 302, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. So excited for this fight. Two guys that are really going to go at it. This is going to be a huge test for Islam to see how he tests against the rest of the division, of course. This should have been Jake Gaethje's spot, but Max Holloway with an amazing performance at UFC 300. They announced this after UFC 300, so I'm a little late announcing this, but so excited for this fight. I think it's going to be in New Jersey, I believe this card's going to be in. And then for the co-main event, I'm probably just as excited for it as the main event. Paulo Costa versus Sean Strickland. That is going to be, of course, a middleweight contender fight. Pretty much, I think whoever wins this fight is going to be next after most likely Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis, whenever that fight gets announced. And, of course, the return of the Mac, the return of the notorious one, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. It finally happens. Michael Chandler finally gets the fight after waiting almost a year. And then after calling out Conor McGregor almost a year ago, I mean, it's such a long process. We had the Ultimate Fighter, him going back into the pool, with how his leg going to be. And then now finally, International Fight Week, UFC 303. And I think they announced Joe Pyfer. I wasn't too sure who he was going to fight, but I know they announced him fighting that card too. I cannot wait to see how those two cards pan out. So far, so good. And now we got some play-in talk. I'm recording this on Friday morning, Friday afternoon. So this is way before the Bulls and Heat, and of course before the Pelicans and Kings game, which we got a lot to talk about there. First of all, we'll talk about the Bulls and the Heat. Heat will most likely be missing Jimmy Butler, and the Bulls actually will have Alex Caruso playing, but I don't know how much impactful he'll be. But for the Heat, really missing Jimmy Butler is going to be huge. I'm not sure if Terry Rozier is going to be able to play, but missing the guy who gives them, all their buckets pretty much is going to hurt them a lot. The leader of this Heat culture, Jimmy Butler, missing him is going to be huge for them. But of course, hopefully Bam Adebayo and hopefully Tyler Hero, didn't play so well the last game, but hopefully he can step up this game and keep it competitive against the Chicago Bulls. And the Chicago Bulls, of course, Kobe White dropping 40. I mean, that was an amazing game against the Atlanta Hawks. And hopefully he can keep it continuing this next game. But, a few guys that I'm really going to watch out for this next game. Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, see how he takes advantage of their center play. How him and Bam Adebayo will match up. Or if he even gets the Bam Adebayo. If Bam Adebayo is assigned to him, you never know. It might be DeMar playing the 4. I don't know. The Chicago Bulls lineup is a little wonky right now. But for the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Nikola Jovic, those are going to be 3 guys I'm really looking out for. And, of course, Jaime Jaquez. Just see how the other guys step up without Jimmy Butler. And, of course, who's going to perform for the Chicago Bulls and hopefully get them to an 8 seed. For this game right here, I have the Chicago Bulls winning this game and going and playing the Boston Celtics in round 1. And we'll get to that in a bit. But the next playing game, Kings versus Pelicans. No Zion Williamson, which is going to be huge. Brandon Ingram's going to have to step up and be the guy here. He didn't really play much at the end. Of course, he's coming off the MCL injury. And I don't know how much he's going to have to play, because this is a win or go home situation. But how effective is he going to be? CJ McCollum, how is he going to step up? Because last game he did not look good at all. Jose Alvarado looked pretty solid. Herb Jones looked pretty solid. And how can they capitalize on the scoring that the Kings can do with Keegan Murray, with, of course, Domantas Sabonis, and with De'Aaron Fox? I mean, I can't remember the other defender's name. He was from Alabama. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But who's going to be able to, for the Kings, I'm more worried about who's going to be able to replace the Malik Monk and the Kevin Huerter minutes as much. It's going to be a little bit hard, but I think they could find Trey Lyles can get some buckets off the bench. But hopefully they can step up defensively. They looked amazing against the Warriors. Of course, I don't know if that was just them being really, really good or the Warriors themselves, their offense not being good at all. which that's a whole other conversation we might get into another podcast about what's going on with the Warriors. But here, I'd say my predictions: Bulls versus Heat. I got the Chicago Bulls beating the Miami Heat, going on to play the Boston Celtics. Kings versus the Pelicans. I got the Kings winning and going on and facing the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is not a crazy matchup, I don't think that they match up equally, but I think they have, the guard play to kind of keep up. But I think the defense of the Kings really stops them against the Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, which is why they're the 8th seed and they're the 1st seed. But one team that I'm really, really having questions about, the Atlanta Hawks. You got 40 buckets on you by Kobe White. What do you do next? Do you trade Trae Young? Do you trade DeJounte Murray? Of course, there's a few stats going around that the offense is way better with one of them is off the court when one of them is not playing, which you traded 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray to the San Antonio Spurs for him just so these guys can play together, and then you're telling me all the stats say that they play better when they're away from each other. For me, the probably better option is to probably trade Trae Young because you'll probably get a lot younger players and maybe a few more draft picks. Of course, the move would be to trade him to San Antonio and get those young players, get a few young players, but also get your picks back, which I think is more important to be able to make other moves. I know it doesn't seem much of a big payout for Trae Young, but you get your picks back and you're able to make other moves to build on the roster, to be able to trade a DeAndre Hunter or maybe a Clint Capella finally, which I think you getting your picks back will make your roster more trade flexible without having those 3 first-round picks, especially unprotected first-round picks. And a few teams I think that can be in the Trae Young market, of course, the Spurs. I think the Pelicans could be really sneaky in there. And then today what came out as the favorite, the Los Angeles Lakers, which makes no sense, which is probably, a D'Lo signing trade, Austin Reeves, maybe a Rui Hachimura, and then their 2 first-round picks, which is very intriguing because it's 2029, maybe no Anthony Davis at that point, and most likely definitely a no LeBron James at that point. So what would they look like? That is a very high risk, high reward because you never know. They could be building off something. Trae Young could be there till 2029, and then that could be a year where they win another championship that year. Really high risk, high reward. And of course, I think number 2 was the Chicago Bulls, which makes sense, but you have Kobe White. Looks like you might go to rebuild, and you get a lot of older players right now, like Vucevic, like DeMar DeRozan, and what in the world? Is that the trade right there? You trade away Zach LaVine for, which makes more sense a little bit, but does the Trae Young Vucevic backup, lineup work, or does even the Zach LaVine and DeJounte Murray lineup work? Which maybe does, maybe doesn't. We never know. And even I think another sneaky team that has the young pieces and has a few trades or has a few picks to be able to trade away, the Orlando Magic. Paulo, Franz, and Trae Young, with the defense of, you'll most likely have to give away, I'd say Anthony Black, maybe Jalen Suggs. I would like to keep him because that backcourt would be, that's perfect for, that's what they would be hoping that would have happened between him and with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. Trae Young and Jalen Suggs, that would be perfect. But of course, you have Jonathan Isaac and a lot of other players over there. But I think the Orlando Magic are really, really big contenders for getting Trae Young. Now let's get into some playoff predictions. Let's start off with the 1-8s on both sides. Thunder and Kings, it seems nice and all. Domantas Sabonis. I think for the one question for the Thunder is how is Chet Holmgren? Is he going to be able to keep up with the physicality of a Domantas Sabonis, and how the backup big was been the big question for the Thunder all season long, and how is he going to hold up? Of course, he's played every single game this season, has looked pretty good. Had a few slumps, of course. He's a rookie, but I think that's the biggest thing, which is, not that big of a deal because I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to show up, Lou Dort's going to show up, has playoff experience, and everybody else in the role players are going to play together. If it's just how does my rookie look, I think you're in a good situation here. I don't think Domantas Sabonis will, torch them enough to be worried about losing the series. Here I have the Thunder winning in 5. And then the next series, the next 1-8 we have is the Chicago Bulls versus the Boston Celtics. I mean, the Boston Celtics have been the most dominant team in the NBA so far right now this season. Jason Tatum's looking good. Jaylen Brown's been looking decent. Of course, you have the lineup also of Jrue Holiday and Derek White, that's amazing defensively against the Chicago Bulls. That they had a nice run in the play-in. I don't think we're gonna see another AC go on to the finals like the Miami Heat did last year. So here, I think I have the Boston Celtics going on and winning this series in 4 and sweeping the Chicago Bulls. The next game starting off Saturday is the Magic versus the Cavaliers, which could be a huge series right here. A lot of defense, not that much scoring. One thing is going to be a huge factor in this: 3-point shooting. The Magic don't have a lot of it, which is why Trae Young would be perfect for them. But they don't have a lot of it right now. And the Cavaliers have quite a bit of 3-point shooting with Georges Niang, with Max Strus, with Donovan Mitchell, with Darius Garland. But the big question for the Cavs is, Jared Allen said last year, are the lights going to be too bright for them? Are the lights going to be too bright for them this year like it was last year? And is anybody else going to show up besides Donovan Mitchell? Of course, Donovan Mitchell hasn't agreed to no contract, even agreed to maybe even staying, which this is going to be huge. If they have another first-round knockout, I don't see Donovan Mitchell staying here. So this is what it's really big. And you have the negative where people think that, you guys lost the last few games of the season to be able to face and have this quote-unquote easy matchup against this young team, the Orlando Magic, which I think that could take it, which I actually have the Magic winning in 6, which is probably insane to say, but I got the Magic winning in 6 because I don't know who else is going to show up. I don't know. I know it's a young team, but I think if you're telling me the team last year that didn't show up was everybody else, and just be able to contain Donovan Mitchell, and you're telling me the Magic's, big, positive is their defense, to be able to have a Jonathan Isaac be able to, slowly ramping up and guard Donovan Mitchell and say, you know what, let the rest of y'all try the torches, and if they don't show up, you have Paulo that's able to, get you a few buckets, Franz that's able to get you a few buckets, and this right here, I think is probably one of the. It's weird to say because the Magic are the higher seed, and it feels like that they're the upset, which Magic in 6, I don't know if that seems too crazy. Let's get on to the next series. The next series we have is the Suns versus the Timberwolves, which is all offense versus all defense, which is the big question for me is, for the Suns, how much is Grayson Allen going to help? How much is all the other role players are going to help out? Because it can't be just Devin Booker. It can't just be, Kevin Durant. I mean, it can be, but I don't know how long of a series it's going to be if you're just relying on that. And Bradley Beal is probably the biggest X factor of this. You have the big three. Jaden McDaniels is going to be guarding, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Edwards is going to be guarding, probably switching between Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, but mostly likely just Devin Booker. So you're telling me it's going to be a one-on-one of Mike Conley and Bradley Beal? I mean, that should be free money all day. But again, this team has not had the best luck all season. But it's just a lot of what's going on. And then you got Cat coming in. He's slowly getting back to his injury. And how good is he going to be? How much is the injury going to linger on him? Because this defense is one of the best in the NBA. Of course, that's with Rudy Gobert standing by the basket for them. And hopefully he just doesn't get played out. But I don't want to overthink. I don't want to overanalyze this. The Suns have not looked good this whole season for a reason, and that is because I don't think they're that good of a team. They just have real, top-heavy superstar power of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Of course, here I have the Timberwolves winning in 5, which me might be a little insane, but it is what it is. And then the next series, the Knicks versus the 76ers. I've been really, really going back and forth about this because for the 76ers, all that matters is Joel Embiid. How does Joel Embiid look? And in that playing game against the Miami, he did not look too good. The fourth quarter, turned it up. I think he had 15 boards. Boom. but it's just the offensive game. Who else is going to give you buckets besides Joel Embiid? Yeah, you can rely on Tyrese Maxey, but who else is that? You can't rely on a Nicholas Batum, dropping 6 threes every, for the whole entire series. You can't rely on that, especially with the defense that the New York Knicks have. And of course, them having Mitchell Robinson back, Isaiah Hartenstein's back and healthy, OG Anunoby's healthy, and I think with Joel Embiid's knee injury, his knee, lingering on him, I think that's really going to take a toll on this, and it's going to be a huge effect, of course, huge effect on them, and it might take them out a few games, because the Knicks are just going to be physical. They're going to play their starters the whole entire series, and I think the only way that I see the 76ers winning this is if Jalen Brunson gets hurt, and I think Jalen Brunson will go out there unless he had to get his leg cut off, or else he won't be out there. Which is, you still got Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, all the other role players have been stepping up, and I think that's the big thing for the Knicks. Who else is going to give you buckets besides Jalen Brunson? But the defense is so good, and I think they won't miss Julius Randle that much as I thought at first. Of course, them being worried that Joel Embiid won't be 100%, and I think this is going to be, all right, we're going to have to put all the pressure on Tyrese Maxey, and let's see how he does, and we're going to throw him Josh Hart, or just throw him all the defenders that we got and see how he does. And here, Knicks versus 76ers. Give me the Knicks in 6. It's going to be a party in Madison Square Garden. Nuggets versus Lakers. Huge series. Nuggets in 6. No. Scratch that. Nuggets in 5. I'm sorry, Lakers fans. I mean, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are the best duo in the NBA. And then you add a Michael Porter Jr., you add an Aaron Gordon. And, of course, the Lakers are, I think if they played literally almost anybody else, if they were in any other series, I might have picked the Lakers. But the fact that they're playing against the defending champs, who they haven't even been able to beat, I think they're 8-0 in the last 8 games, which, for me, the big thing for the Lakers is you can't get swept again. If you get swept again, a lot of changes are going to be needed. I think if you mean a gentleman's sweep also, quite a bit has to be done because you can't beat the defending champs, which is, for the Nuggets, this is probably the biggest hurdle for them. This is the biggest obstacle for them. And then the next round, I believe it's going to be the Suns or the Timberwolves, which is might be easy money here and there. It depends on who wins that series. But I think the Nuggets are just too good. The team, and especially them having home court advantage, and the Mile High City, that crowd just gets insane, gets into it. And if you're going down 2-0 into LA, I think there's a lot of question marks that need to be made. A lot of, finger pointing maybe. And hopefully D'Angelo Russell can play how he's been playing since the All-Star break. Giving you buckets, because that's what stopped him what hurt him last time. Him not playing good, Austin Reeves not playing good, but you're not going in with Vando, and hopefully Rui Hachimura can have a resurgence and have a big series like he did those first few games last year. But I think at the end of it, it's gonna be Nuggets in 5, maybe in 4, but I'm going with 5. I think the Lakers steal 1 win. Next, probably my favorite and probably my most conflicted series out of the whole entire playoffs. The Clippers versus the Mavericks. This is Luka, who I think is the MVP in the league and playing amazing, who I want to see succeed, versus the Clippers. Of course, one of my favorite players, trying to want to be biased, but one of my favorite players, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden. The Clippers team is just so good. Of course, led by Tyronn Lue. I think they just have too much offense here. They have too much offense. They have the defense to be able to guard Luka, switch defenders. You know what? Paul George, get Luka for this quarter. Kawhi, get him for the fourth, and just be able to switch off like that. And I don't think the Mavericks defense has looked better since All-Star break, and has gotten better with them adding, Daniel Gafford, with them adding P.J. Washington. But it just has to go down to this. How healthy is Kawhi going to be? How healthy is Paul George going to be? And is James Harden going to disappear? And if they just play I think if all three of them play decent with the talent they have and the defense that they have, I think they should be able to beat this Mavericks team. And I think this is one of the only series, I think if not the only series that I have going to 7. And I have the Clippers going to 7 and winning this in 7, which hurts because, there's going to have to be a lot of questions for the Mavericks, which maybe would want me to pick the Clippers because there are going to be a lot more questions that need to be answered and maybe a little bit more of a breakup there. But I have the Clippers winning in 7. In the last series, we will be talking about the Indiana Pacers versus the Bucks. This matchup here was really hyped up. We really wanted it, in the middle of the season during the in-season tournament, back and forth. And now Giannis might be out either the first few games or might not maybe even play at all. And if Giannis doesn't play at all, honestly, I know they don't have the defense to be able to really stop Damian. Let me say, how do I say this? The Pacers defense is, of course, getting a little bit better. The offense is ramping up to almost what it was in the beginning of the season. Tyrese Halliburton's, finally healthy. That's what really stopped them in the middle of the season, him being injured. But the defense is not there. You have Miles Turner, of course, Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mathurin is out for the season. But the one thing for the Pacers, this is a new team than it was the in-season tournament. You have a Pascal Siakam to also rely on against this Bucks team. And especially with a no Giannis, if Giannis plays, I have the Bucks winning in 6. If Giannis doesn't play, I have the Pacers winning in 7. And I think that's what I'm more leaning to. I have the Pacers winning more in 7, especially with no Giannis. I think they'll be able to hold up. Chris Middleton hasn't been the same. Damian Lillard hasn't been the same. There's no Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez. You're telling me you're going to rely on an older Brook Lopez who also hasn't looked that good this season? I think they're just going to run and gun and just wear out these older players and just, they're going to push the pace. The Pacers are going to push the pace and set the tone for this game. And it just depends on the first few games. If they go down 2-0, I think Giannis will end up, might push himself to play, but I'm not too confident about it if they don't even know yet when he could come back. I think I'm feeling more the Pacers winning in 7 than anything. But those are my predictions for the play-in, for the playoffs, and of course a reaction to the UFC news. We will be having an NFL mock draft dropping soon, so make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below who you think is going to go to the NBA Finals. We'll see you next time.